Good afternoon. I trust you had a wonderful summer and all set for the fall season. Thank you for joining us for our webinar on our role in the property tax and assessment system. This webinar will be approximately 60 minutes, including time for Q&A at the end of the presentation. You should all be able to hear the presenters through your computer speakers or your headsets. Currently, you are all set to mute, but you can click on the Q&A icon on your control bar and post a question at any time. We will hold all questions until the end of the presentation when the presenters will answer as many as possible. Questions that do not get answered will be responded to by your local account manager. This webinar is being recorded and will be shared with you along with the PowerPoint presentation early next week. Please welcome today's webinar host, Mary Dawson-Cole, Director, Municipal and Stakeholder Relations.
Thank you very much, Christine, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm very happy to introduce our speakers today, who are our President and CAO, Nicole McNeill, and our Vice President and COO, Carmelo Lipsi. The purpose of today's webinar is to share some highlights of our recent work and current priorities. We understand that our work begins at the community and individual level. This is why we are focused on important matters like supporting property owners and helping them understand their assessments. We are also focused on our partnerships with municipalities and have been participating in meetings and council delegations across the province. We are out and about and connecting with municipalities, government, and business, and we are sharing property information and insights to help our business partners make informed decisions. Before we have Nicole and Carm present today, I do want to share that in mid-August, just prior to the AMO conference, the provincial government announced a review of Ontario's property taxation and assessment system and committed to deferring a reassessment until this review is complete. This means that property taxes will continue to be determined on fully phased-in property values based on the January 1st, 2016 valuation date. We share the government's interest in ensuring the accuracy, transparency, and fairness of property assessments, and we are ready to contribute our assessment expertise and experience to the review. While MPAC is not responsible for setting tax rates or collecting property taxes, we welcome the opportunity to work with the province to ensure the property assessment process is optimal for all our customers, both property owners and municipalities. So now I'm going to pass the presentation over to our CAO and President, Nicole, to speak more about the recent announcement and our current areas of focus. Welcome, Nicole.
Thank you, Mary, and I'm happy to be here and excited to share what we're working on with everyone on this webinar today. I want to start by addressing the questions you likely have following the Minister's recent announcement. First, what does the review of the property tax and assessment system mean? And second, how does this pause affect MPAC's work? Those were the two questions that we heard as we were just at AMO a couple of weeks ago. So on the review, we don't have a lot of answers right now. It's early days, but we look forward to working with the government, with municipalities, property owners, and all the stakeholders, such as yourselves, so that our property tax assessment system remains fair and transparent. As to what this means for our work, I want to start by addressing the misconception that just because there isn't a reassessment, that MPAC is not working for you. So let's chat a little bit about what happens in a non-reassessment year at MPAC. To support this work, we have 1,800 staff in communities right across the province in about 26 different office locations. They maintain Ontario's property inventory of more than 5.6 million properties. And we keep your records up to date through analyzing sales transactions. As an example, we process on any given year, outside of a reassessment, approximately 500 sales transactions. In addition, we process approximately 300,000 building permits. We create approximately 25,000 severances and consolidations. And we work with property owners every year through approximately 10,000 requests for reconsideration and about 7,500 appeals. So we do a lot of work to support our clients as well. We receive approximately 160,000 calls to our call center annually. We work with your councils and staff to better understand your assessment bases. And as an example, in the last year, we had approximately 1,500 meetings with municipalities. And to support all of this, we have a dedicated support departments in finance, communications, IT, HR, etc. So now let's talk about what changes in a reassessment year. Basically, what happens is we shift our work around. More resources are used to analyze sales data and produce updated market values. We also get more calls from property owners. So therefore, we ramp up our call center with contract staff so that we continue to meet our service level requirements. So every day in Ontario, homes and businesses are being built, they're being modified, they're being renovated. And we know that in the next few years, as Ontario looks to build approximately 1.5 million homes, our work is only going to get busier. As Ontario grows, it's our job at MPAC to understand and value those changes so that we can provide those updates to you. We know more than ever how important it is for us to capture much needed new revenue for our municipal partners. Last year, we added more than $37 billion in value to municipal assessment rolls, and that generates hundreds of millions in additional ongoing tax dollars. So every day, we're analyzing sales, rents, and other property data. We're valuing those permits in your communities, additions, demolitions, and new construction. And we're sitting down with municipal councils and staff to provide important information on your assessment bases. We're responding to taxpayer inquiries, and we're processing requests for reconsideration and appeals. We're developing new software and tools to make our operations even more efficient, and we're developing new approaches to valuing property in real time so that we can estimate that value, so that we can answer those questions you have about your property today. And we're ready when the time comes to update the market value of all properties from the existing date that we're using, as you know, is Jan 1, 2016. We know that for municipalities, property taxes are the single largest source of revenue, which is why the work we do together is so important and why we're committed to working with you so that you have the right tools, information, and supports to manage your assessment bases and make plans for the future. One thing that I hear often from municipal leaders and property owners is that property assessment is complex. That's why we've been communicating with property owners and Ontarians more than ever to help them understand who we are and learn how to get more information. You may have seen our Myth versus Facts campaign on social media that debunked some of the most common misconceptions about property assessment and how taxes are calculated and levied. As part of the campaign, we created a video to support municipalities that has almost 200,000 views. We've also launched a program to give property owners information when we're in their area, and we provide advance notice before we arrive to inspect a property so that the owner has a chance to learn about why we're there and ask questions about our work. We've also modernized our About My Property portal on mpac.ca, where property owners can get free access to the details we have on file about their property, review assessment and sales information for properties in their neighborhood, and find information on what to do if they disagree with their assessment. As of today, we have approximately 450,000 About My Property users. Since we've launched and redesigned version of the application in 2020, we've added almost 200,000 users to the system. So that's a 40% increase. And that is even without having a reassessment. When we redesigned About My Property, we improved our search features and made the application easier to navigate and understand. So as an example, we added a new online portal to collect school support information electronically. We added a new request for reconsideration process. And we've also made enhancements to how property owners can browse their neighborhoods. Something we're really proud of is the About My Property application was recently featured as an exhibitor in the Transparency Showcase. This is a virtual exhibit of innovative and impactful transparency projects by public institutions, and it was curated by the Office of the Information and Privacy Commissioner of Ontario. We're proud to be featured among other impressive projects in the Transparency Showcase, and are pleased to do our part to promote Ontarians' access rights. Another way we think we've added value to property valuation process is with our data and technology. We all know intuitively that real estate data is valuable and there's a market for it. As an example, how many of you have consulted House Sigma or Honest Door when you're thinking about making a real estate decision? We want to be able to maximize returns on these data assets. And to this end, we're currently engaged in a data strategy project to develop new ways of providing access to property data and market insights and support planning and public policy. Together with AMO and a third party, we recently conducted municipal and taxpayer engagements to learn what our partners and customers need, which will inform our data strategy. We gathered insights from multiple Ontario municipalities through surveys, interviews, focus groups, and a live polling session at the Phenom conference earlier this spring. And I'd like to share some early insights with you. First of all, there's an overall satisfaction with the data that we're providing municipalities right now of over 75% satisfaction. What municipalities want depends on their capacity to analyze the data. Municipalities with more resources and expertise want more data. Municipalities with less resources and expertise would prefer that MPAC does the analysis and provide products to them instead. And not surprising to some, we heard frustration with the restrictive use of MPAC data, and there's some lack of certainty about the permissible uses of our data. We also sought input from taxpayers through surveys of Ontarians and 3 taxpayer associations. We focused on getting feedback from these 3 groups, which represented renters, homeowners, and investors. While we're still analyzing the results, I can share that 87% of the respondents were satisfied with the level of detail in MPAC's property assessment notices. And about 30% want their notice to provide more clarification on how MPAC valued their property. We have a real opportunity to increase the awareness of About My Property and the information available to property owners there. So what's next coming out of this project? We're working to consolidate and analyze all the insights we've gathered from municipalities and taxpayers. And over the rest of the year, we'll design our corporate data strategy. In the coming months, we'll share fulsome insights from our consultants and what we expect to share our data strategy with municipalities by early next year. We're thankful to Ontario municipalities for their time and their input they provided through this process. It really is valuable because we want to make sure that we get it right and we get the information out there that municipalities and Ontarians need. I'm now going to turn it over to Carmelo Lipsi to share more about modernizing our operations and sharing our insights.
Thank you, Nicole. It's my pleasure to share a snapshot of our work over the last year to maintain Ontario's property database, modernize our operations, and serve you, our municipal partners. To start, let's talk about our e-permitting pilot program. It's an example of our commitment to modernizing solutions in our digital permitting program and the collaboration with municipalities to digitize their building permit process. Mary Dawson-Cole participated on a panel discussion with the AMO Conference Board about the work we're doing in partnership with AMO and LAS to developing the e-permitting pilot project. And it demonstrates the value of digital permitting for Ontario municipalities. As a result of that work, 47% of all permits are now being submitted to us electronically. Our real-time value work, we're looking to be able to deliver a value for all property on any given day. This evolution of our business processes, valuation capabilities, and technology enhance our ability to deliver our legislative mandate, but also creates opportunities to provide value-added insights to our stakeholders. And meeting with our municipal partners is crucial to building strong relationships and understanding the communities we serve. MPAC staff work closely with municipal administration and municipal councils to educate and share valuable information. MPAC engaged with municipalities over 1,500 times in 2022. We managed about 14,000 municipal inquiries, and it provided valuable insights to allow for those informed local decisions. We conducted over 163,000 sales reviews, foundational work to support future assessment updates as we continue to monitor local market activities and giving us greater insight into the changing property and market landscape in Ontario. We completed over 250,000 building permits. Half of these were for new structures, additions, and renovations and alterations. And we closed nearly 23,000 appeals on over 5,700 properties in 2022, which has led to increased role stability with fewer appeals and RFRs on the books. As Nicole mentioned earlier, in 2022, we assessed over $37.8 billion of new assessment. And that included 48,000 new residential homes and 7,000 rental units. And we processed over 86% of this new assessment within 1 year of occupancy, exceeding our targets. As part of our SLA agreement with municipalities, we recently delivered the second quarter new assessment forecast to our municipal partners. As of our Q2 new assessment forecast update, MPAC is forecasting over $41.5 billion in available new assessment across the province. This is slightly down from our Q1 forecast, which projected $42 billion. This change may be attributed to delays in residential and condominium new construction occurring in some market areas as a result of borrowing costs that continue to rise. While MPAC currently assesses over 50,000 new homes and approximately 7,000 to 10,000 new rental units annually, we are looking at the construction and assessment of more than 1.5 million homes over the next 10 years. This significant increase will affect how we do our work as we modernize and streamline our processes to continue to provide valuable services to municipalities. For example, gathering building permits from municipalities through APIs and our partnership with AMO and LES by supporting municipalities as they move to e-permitting submissions. Using authoritative sources of information such as electronic building plans and aerial imagery. Offering new initiatives such as our new building permit dashboard in Municipal Connect, which was just launched in July. It's a more user-friendly experience with better presentation of building permits that includes filters and embedded permit data. And we're also looking to enhance the property owner experience through improved communication and pre-inspection notifications, as Nicole mentioned. We understand that municipalities depend on our new revenue generated from construction and renovation activities. Providing accurate data leads to better market analytics, more accurate values, and ultimately brings greater stability and predictability to assessment roles. Looking at Ontario's landscape, the province's property market continues to grow. This chart shows the change in assessment and the assessment base over the period of 2017 to 2022 and takes into consideration not only new assessment work that we did during that period of time, but also the increase in value attributed to phase-ins. There was growth in all property categories, but 97% of the new properties were residential. During this 5-year span, the total number of new properties grew by approximately 300,000, or 6% of the overall total of properties, with a total change in assessed value of more than $470 billion, or an 18% growth. I'll share some additional property insights from our 2022 year-end activities that will be of interest to you. We saw a slowdown in new residential condominiums attributed to construction delays arising from changing economic considerations and supply issues. Despite this slowdown, we did see year-over-year growth in other property types. Among the municipalities with the strongest growth in new assessment, Toronto came in first for 2022 with $8.7 billion of new assessment, but that was slightly down from $10.7 billion in 2021. Ottawa is second with $4.4 billion of new assessment, which was up from $3 billion for the previous year. And Mississauga came in third with $1.2 billion of new assessment, down slightly from $1.6 billion the previous year. MPAC is rich in data, and we're looking to share the insights that are relevant to your local communities. We recently looked at building permits, storage facilities, and condo and home activity over the last couple of years. Our understanding of building permit data gives us a unique perspective on activity and behavior shifts that are occurring in the province. Our insights campaign around 2022 residential building permit activity revealed that for the first time in 3 years, Ontario saw the number of residential permits drop after reaching all-time highs during the pandemic. Last year, more than 108,000 building permits were issued across Ontario for new development as well as home improvements. This represented an approximate 11.6% decrease from the previous year, ending a trend of year-over-year increases returning to 2020 levels. There are several reasons for this that we believe. With COVID-19 restrictions lifted, people are starting to gravitate back to experiences and travel. Coupled with the fact that the cost of borrowing has increased with higher interest rates, we're seeing fewer permits issued, signaling that there has been a shift in priorities in Ontario. Despite a decrease from the previous year, permits are still up from pre-pandemic 2019 levels by over 22%. We also shared some insights on storage facilities back in March and found that in the last 3 years alone, more than 4.2 million square feet, an increase of about 11%, has been added to the storage footprint, with additional growth on the horizon. There are several factors contributing to the self-storage boom, including the rise in smaller dwellings, particularly condominiums, which offer less space to store personal possessions. In fact, Ontario condominiums are 35% smaller on average than they were 25 years ago, with the average detached home actually 25% larger. In Toronto, Ottawa, and Mississauga, cities with the largest concentration of condominiums in Ontario, the growth in self-storage has been especially pronounced. Toronto now has more than 8 million square feet of commercial self-storage space, followed by Ottawa with 3 million square feet, and Mississauga with 2 million square feet. You can read more about these latest insights on MPAC.ca. You may be wondering what our next insight campaigns will look like. This fall, we'll be sharing some insights about housing affordability and attainability. You will be interested to know that in 2013, 73% of all residential properties in the province were less than $500,000. In 2023, that number has dropped to just 14%. More interesting insights will follow in the fall of this year. If you haven't already, I'd like to encourage you to review some of our recent reports to learn more about MPAC and the work we do. Our 2022 annual report highlights where we've been and where we're going as we continue to focus on supporting our municipal partners, stakeholders, and the people of Ontario. Our 2022 performance report shares our strategic and operational performance in assessment services, stakeholder engagement, operational efficiency, and customer service. And the 2022 Municipal Partnership Report offers a summary of our efforts in capturing new assessment, how we're continuing to prioritize our property owners, and new products and services that we've introduced. And our news report, the 2022 enumeration report, provides our review of our 2022 enumeration campaign results, as well as an overview of some of the tactics that we undertook to achieve these results. We also share our path forward as we transition responsibility of the preliminary list of electors to Elections Ontario in 2024. You can also find all of our publications, all of these publications on MPAC.ca. And we liaise with municipalities on a regular basis with direct council or elected official meetings, via orientation sessions or one-on-one meetings. Municipal conferences such as this one on our municipal team is attending, and we look to attend 14 of these conferences in 2023. Webinars and training videos like the one that we're at today are ongoing support for MPAC products and services. A digital toolkit available on MPAC.ca can help municipalities, including elected officials, understand and mitigate misinformation and provide support and resources to educate and inform property owners. Our monthly In Touch newsletter will also keep you abreast of what's happening at MPAC. And you can also scan the QR code to see our resources or visit our municipal support page on mpac.ca. Don't ever hesitate to contact or reach out to your account manager. With over 45% turnover during the 2022 municipal elections, we want to engage with new and re-elected municipal officials and municipal staff to help foster strong relationships. These connections are a focus for MPAC. Since the municipal election, our municipal and stakeholder relations team has engaged in over 220 presentations to municipal committees and councils, with almost 200 other elected official engagements during that time. Every municipality has their own dedicated account management team at MPAC, and these are the best resources, municipal staff, and elected officials should your municipality have any questions related to MPAC and the work that we do. Thank you for attending, and at this time, I'll hand things over to Jason to open the webinar up for any questions.
Hey, thanks very much, Carm, and thanks very much, Nicole. That was great. A great update, lots going on for sure, and no shortage of questions. So first one I'll throw to you, Carm. Have they set a target date for when the review of the property tax and assessment system is to be completed?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's a question that we heard a little bit about it while we were at the AMO conference a few weeks ago. At this time, we really have very little information with respect to the details of what the review will entail, or even a timeline that's been established to actually provide us with some awareness around the focus that they're looking at.
Perfect, thanks, Carm. One attendee noted in your remarks that you say that MPAC completes sales reviews, and they were wondering why is a sales review done, and is it to prepare for the next reassessment update when it is known?
Yeah, that's a great question. So just to provide some clarity, it's important for us when we're looking to understand what's happening within the market, and really to use that information as a foundational piece to support any future reassessment activity that we'll do, one directed by the provincial government. We need to understand when something transacts, exactly what's transacted. So, and it's a very simple sort of example. If there's a sale on a property for a home, let's say, for example, and there's a certain amount of money that's exchanged, we need to know exactly what was purchased for that amount of money. So it's important for us to ensure that the information specific to that sale is current and reflective of what occurred on that particular date. So the state and condition of the property at the time of sale is important for us to understand exactly what was purchased, how much it was purchased for, and then that information will be used as the basis for any future assessment updates that'll take place. So it's really important for us to really keep a very close eye on what's happening within the market, but also understand what's transacted for the amount of money that was paid for that property.
Oh, that's great. Thanks, Carm. Another attendee noted that RFRs, or requests for reconsideration, appear to spike during a reassessment year. Does MPAC have any expectation of the number of RFRs in a non-reassessment year?
Typically what we see, and really, the best that we can sort of look at is really sort of past experiences of what happens in non-assessment update years, and rightly sort of identified is that typically after an assessment update occurs, we do see a spike in RFR activity. But then typically, the first year, after the first year, those number of RFRs drop significantly. One of the things that we look at is, we use RFRs as a way for us to actually get updated information on property. So, we've redesigned About My Property to make the filing of a request for reconsideration as simple and straightforward as possible. But we also provide a healthy degree of information so the property owners are well aware of the value, the assessed value of properties in their neighborhood, along with sale activity that should provide them with some understanding of, what was relied upon to come up with the value for their particular home. So although we don't necessarily have, numbers of RFRs that we typically would expect to see, or anticipate seeing. Our past experience has been in non-assessment update years. We see somewhere around 10 to 15,000 requests for reconsiderations filed annually.
Okay, excellent. Thanks, Carm. And there's a question noted that we note typically we experience 50,000 new residential builds a year, yet we're projecting up to 150,000 per year for the next 10 years. What is the basis for this increased projection?
Really, what we're doing as an organization is really just trying to prepare ourselves for what's being messaged by the provincial government, which is this real significant push towards addressing the issue of affordability, housing affordability, and housing attainability, with increased expectations around the number of new homes that are being constructed over the next 10 years. The government has been out pretty actively talking about 1.5 million homes or residences are going to be built over the next period of time. So it's important for MPAC to be at the ready to ensure that when this increased number of new homes are being constructed, that we can assess that new construction as quickly as possible. So we're using this as an opportunity for us to modernize and really innovate the way that we're doing the assessment of new work and new construction, so that we can assess that work as quickly as possible, understanding that that revenue generated from that new construction will be important to municipalities. But we also want to ensure that we're very timely around the assessment of that new construction for homeowners as well, so that that new assessment is done as quickly as possible, and municipalities then will bill as necessary for those taxes as soon as possible as well.
Perfect. Thanks, Carm. Another one. Do you know if municipalities will be consulted as part of the province's planned review of the property tax and assessment system?
Yeah, really at this point, we have no additional clarity as to what the review will entail, the extent of the review, what areas of focus the review will, the review will take. So we really don't have any more information than really what's already been shared very openly and very publicly. So at this point, as we've said, we're more than willing and feel it necessary for us to participate in the process. We want to share our expertise and our experience in the property assessment system that we have, but specific to obviously the areas of our areas of expertise, which is really more around the assessment piece. But I would encourage municipalities to reach out to the government if they feel that it's important for them to participate in this process and they feel that they may have a voice that they want to share.
Perfect. Thanks, Carm. Has MPAC noticed any changes to new construction because of higher interest rates? And do we anticipate any changes or any further changes in the future?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, one of the benefits that we see as part of our SLA around the reporting of available new assessment forecasts, we do that on a quarterly basis, is that it does take into consideration what we're seeing that's happening within the construction space in Ontario, and we have seen some signs where we've seen some delays in some construction that's occurring, and as a result of that, we're updating our forecasts on a regular basis so that municipalities are fully aware of any changes that we've seen with respect to some potential or some communicated slowdown in construction. We've seen some of that already occur with some of the larger projects and initiatives around residential condominium development, typically within the city of Toronto. But we also, need to hear from municipalities if they're hearing of any slowdowns in some of their construction that they're aware of within their jurisdictions. That information is really important for us so that we can update our forecast. But it's something that we keep a very close eye on because we understand the importance of what this means to municipalities, but it also allows us to effectively ensure that we can keep on top of what's happening with respect to construction work that's happening in Ontario.
Excellent. Another question that came in, Carm. New assessment we capture every year. The assessment update, once it's known, happens periodically. Is there a redistribution of resources within MPAC to focus on reassessment rather than capturing new assessment in the lead up to an assessment update? Or how do we balance that?
Yeah, new assessment is always a priority for us. Again, just understanding how important it is to our municipal partners. So that's an area that continues to be a priority around the work that we do. Typically what we see is leading up to an assessment update, we want to ensure that our sales investigations are as current as they possibly can be. As I mentioned, it's foundational for the establishment of new values going forward. So there is a bit of a reprioritization of some of our capacity to ensure that new assessment continues to be a priority and that's not compromised. Sale activity needs to be at a state where we can ensure that we can rely on that information for the establishment of new values as we do our analytical work to establish those new assessments on properties. And then obviously we need to have capacity available to handle things like requests for reconsiderations. So there is a balancing that we typically do, but we do keep in mind the importance of what the key deliverables are to municipalities. And we have some legislative requirements around some of the work that we do as well that, that isn't compromised in what we're trying to do, whether it's legislative, targets that we're working towards or even SLA targets around the work that we do. But there is a bit of a balancing, as Nicole sort of talked about. And in some cases, what we do is we onboard some additional resources to help us to support some of that work. So we onboard some, individuals to help with some of the call volumes that we'll receive at our customer contact center to really be there to answer any questions that property owners may have.
Excellent. Thanks again, Carm. Another question that's a good one, fairly general. If as new construction takes place, is it being based on current market value and sales, or is it being refined back to the base year 2016 date?
Until there's a decision on a revaluation with a new valuation date established, all properties in Ontario will continue to be based on a January 1st, 2016 valuation date. That includes any new construction that may occur and also sales that have occurred. So if there's a transaction, there's a change in ownership of a property and there's a new sale on that property, the value of that property will continue to be 2016. So, in part of I appreciate some of the challenge that we have is, you may build a new home, it may be constructed as of, this year in 2023. The new homeowners take occupancy of that property in 2023, and there's a sale against that property that's reflective of the current market in 2023. For assessment purposes, the value of that property will continue to be January 1st, 2016. And to come up with that value, what we really do is we look at what new homes of that particular size and quality and, lot dimensions, everything else that's attributed to that property would have sold for back in 2016. And that's the value that we would then apply to that new home that's constructed and occupied in January or occupied in 2023.
Excellent. A question came in about Nicole's remarks, but perhaps I'll direct this one to you, Carm, as well. Nicole had mentioned that there is sometimes a lack of certainty related to use of MPAC data. What is MPAC doing to make it clearer for municipalities about what MPAC data can be used for? And I think this is a reference to our data strategy work, but just wanted to see if you had any comments.
Yeah, it's a great question, and that's actually part of the work that we're doing from a data strategy perspective. Is that we want to be out there, and we definitely want to be supporting municipalities around the work that they're trying to do. So we did some work through a third-party vendor around some consultation with municipalities, and we also did some work with property owners to survey and try to understand a little bit more clear around the information and data that MPAC has and how the different stakeholders would like to use some of that information. So we're trying to find a way to support some of those local initiatives that are happening within municipalities. But we also want to provide clarity around how that information can be used whether it's going to be being used internally within the municipality, and the limitations around actually that information being shared publicly on municipal websites. So that's the work that we're trying to do. We're going to definitely provide some further clarity because we do recognize that there is a little bit of confusion around what that means. We're trying to clear some of that work up around some of the data services or DSSA work, but we're going to continue to be out sharing more of that information with municipalities and working with you closely around that. And one of the things I would say is if you have any questions about that, please reach out. We definitely want to work with you and ensure that, we're providing you the information that you need, but we also want to ensure that, the information that's being shared and used is being used in a way that aligns with what we've put out as part of a data services and agreement that we have with you, but also understanding that, MPAC has some limitations around the information that's there as a result of some contractual agreements that we have with some other parties, third parties.
Excellent, thanks, Carm. There's a question that came in about e-permitting, and I guess generally what it's saying is, it's asking if there's preferential treatment. What I think the question is asking is, what is the benefit of municipalities submitting their permitting information to us through an API and electronic means rather than the former paper or Excel-based formats?
That's a great question. So typically what it really means is that, through an e-permitting API platform, there's a bit of a built-in check around the accuracy of the information that's being submitted. So the quality of the submissions that we're receiving are typically of a higher standard, which just means the ingestion of that information is a far smoother, easier process. And if we can ingest the information sooner, we can then assign it out to our staff to ensure that they're out picking up the new construction that's taking place quicker. Where there is potential delays around some paper submissions or some other forms of electronic sharing of that data, is that in some cases it's a back and forth that occurs between MPAC and the municipality that shared that information that just delays that permit being assigned to our staff to pick up. So there are some inherent benefits to a standardized exchange of information and sharing of that information to us. And there has been some recognition of the fact that going through an API process, MPAC actually is able to pick up the permit quicker than going through a traditional paper copy type of submission of permit information, where in some cases where we have to reach out to actually get some additional clarity around the permit that's actually been issued. So there are some benefits. And as a result of that, we would encourage all municipalities to move to an e-permitting system. There is a pilot underway. But if you have any questions about it, I would encourage you to reach out to your local account manager and talk a little bit more about it, and we can provide some greater insights.
Excellent, thanks, Carm. Related, are on-site or physical inspections still being conducted by MPAC to pick up improvements from building permits, or are we now relying more on a simple review of the permits?
It's a bit of obviously as we're looking to modernize and become more innovative around the work that we're doing, we're relying on where appropriate third-party sources of information. So authoritative sources of information that may allow us to do some of that work a little bit more efficiently. But we still continue to conduct foot on property inspections. So what that really means is, going out to the property, knocking on the door, picking up the information that's there. But in a lot of cases, sharing of electronic building plans or, sourcing information through digital imagery, it allows us to actually address some of the other permit activity that goes on. So a very simple example would be, if somebody built a pool and we saw a real proliferation of pool construction over the last few years, and if we have aerial imagery that just confirms that the pool has been constructed, we can take measurements and we know the size, we can just add the pool on without having to visit the property. So we can become more efficient and effective in the way that we're doing some of that work. but it also means that we can be more timely around picking up more permit information for municipalities by being more efficient. But I can also say to you that, sometimes what we also do see as a result of something like a building permit for a pool is that if aerial imagery is indicating that there's other changes to the property where there may have not been a permit issued, that information would then be shared and assigned to a field staff for a property inspector to conduct a field review on site. So we are using a lot of innovative ways of ensuring that we can be more responsive, we can be quicker around picking up new assessment, and we can ensure that that information is provided to municipalities sooner. But the integrity and the quality of the data is something that we're not prepared to compromise on. So any decisions that we're making around trying to find some efficiencies in the way we do things is always ensuring that the quality of the data that we're picking up and the quality of the information that's on the property isn't compromised as a result of finding new and innovative and modernized approaches to doing the work that we do.
Excellent, thanks, Carm. As if you haven't had enough questions, I got one more for you. So let's take a breather. Do you have an update on gravel pit appeals? I know this has been a big work item for MPAC, and when can municipalities expect any revisions to their valuations?
Yeah, that's a great question, Jason, and it has been an area of focus of ours since since the recent decision that was finalized out in Wellington. It is an area that we are reviewing the valuation of all gravel pit properties in Ontario, and we're using the framework that came out of that appeal decision in Wellington to inform the valuation of gravel pit properties. Our work really has been trying to focus on ensuring that we can close off on any outstanding appeals, but also at the same time updating the inventory of all gravel pit properties and the valuation of all gravel pit properties by the end of this year. So with those new values in place for the 2024 tax year. One of the things that we also really want to ensure that through this process is that we will be consulting with municipalities. We will be hosting just some very specific gravel pit webinar discussions with impacted municipalities. And we'll be doing the same thing with the industry group as well, the gravel pit industry and their association, to really share the new valuation that'll be applicable to these properties before the end of this year. So that's the work that we've been doing, and it's been an area of focus of ours for quite a few months now to ensure that all of that information is up to date and as current as possible before we finalize the assessment roll for 2024.
Excellent. Thanks again, Carm. I will give you a break. It looks like we have reached the end of the questions, and that was a marathon. So I'll pass it back to Mary for concluding remarks.
Thank you so much, Jason, for facilitating our questions today. And sincere thanks to our webinar team here at MPAC that puts these sessions together each and every month for all of you. My sincere appreciation to our President, COO Nicole, and to our Vice President and COO Carm for their participation in today's webinar. And I wish all of you a safe and happy fall. And for those of you who are back to school with little ones, best of the fall season to you all. And we'll see you next month. Thank you.